Our client has bought this property for £70,000. We're going to flip the property for them. Let's go. Welcome to Project George Street. Now, this is a flip project in South Wales, and it's a bit of a unique one because it's quite a small project for a flip. So what I'm going to do is run through the numbers, run through the client and how they came about for this to be a good fit for them, and importantly, how we've helped them. So let's go. The first thing I want to point out is the condition of the actual property itself. So as we go through each room, you'll notice that things look pretty damn good, to be honest with you. Things look pretty good. The reason for that is we've just finished the internal renovation. We have a little bit of work to do outside and on the roof, but throughout internally, the property is very, very good. New flooring, new electrics, new kitchen, all those certain bits have been done. So it's looking really nice and spruced up, and obviously you'll see the condition throughout. This is a flip project. The refurbs cost about 12 grand. We've managed everything for the client, so they live about 1.5 to 2 hours away. We've managed everything. They just want to keep flipping. I'll go through the numbers separately, but just in terms of the condition of the property, just to note, this is post refurb internally, and it's going to be just the spec we've gone for is just a nice family home on the back end. We haven't made it a palace. We've just got new carpets for longevity, nice thick dark carpets. You've got obviously a bit of painting here and there to do, but internally it looks very, very good. And then you obviously got no electrics up there. You've got good lighting throughout. It's nice and bright, nice and vibrant, open spaced, and it's really good. So this is currently the start of January 2025. So we're looking to get this on the market starting next week. So we're excited, really excited. But just to note through the condition, it is looking very good. So this isn't a pre-refurb video, this is a post-refurb video. My apologies for not doing pre-refurb. So you guys can see the fuse board up here. So new electrics throughout the property, full rewires being carried out. Obviously got the new leads by here, new fuse board. The really good thing about having a full rewire on the property, some people try to save money by doing little partial rewires. The really good thing about getting a full rewire done is that the longevity is solid. So if you got new electrics throughout the property, you're future-proofing it from an electrical standpoint. It's safer because you got new cables in there. There's less risk of old cabling catching fire or being dated and just being horrible and just burning out. As a previous Sparky, I know how all this works. So we really recommend, if someone's trying to cost save by doing a partial rewire, always consider getting a full rewire done. We've had a few projects recently that have come to about 2 grand partial rewires, and we've always increased it by a grand, 3 grand, 3.5 grand. Get a full rewire done, future-proof the property. The whole idea of refurbs, to a point, is to do the renovation work now, spend the money now, so that you can leave it alone. Tenants are safe, you're safe as the investor, and it means that you're kind of protecting yourself a little bit. So just a word of warning with rewires, don't try to save money too often with them if you've got to do works anyway. This one required some works anyway, but we thought we may as well get it all done, because when an electrician comes to test the property, it means that you can have certainty it's going to pass as long as the good Sparky's done the work. It can be certain the actual EICR certificate is going to be passing, and it just gives you confidence in the investment as the investor. So this is the downstairs, bottom of the stairs area, second living room sort of area, bit of a walkway between the kitchen and front room, so to speak. And to be honest with you, simplicity is really key here, in terms of the plain walls, dark thick carpets, and you'll see the trend throughout the property. It's made to a standard that it's not a palace, but it's very simple, and it means that someone can come in and actually want to make it their home. And everything is longevity kind of prioritized on this. So with the boiler, with the electrics, with the carpets, it's a case of making sure it's good quality. And then whoever's going to come in and buy it later on, as a flip, of course, is going to be happy. Kitchen, one of the best and most important bits of any household. You can make a property as nice as you want, but if the kitchen isn't spacious, isn't good quality, isn't really nice, then people aren't going to want to rent, people aren't going to buy, and the property value isn't going to be maximized. So in this property, again, simplicity is really key here. We're not going for a palace, we're just going for a modern spec, but simple as well. So you got simple worktops, really nice, and just it's bright is the best word I can use here. So it's very bright. You've got the window light coming in, and you've got enough space to have your cookers. You know, you got your cooker space. I'll go into the boiler slightly in a second. But you got cooker space. You got somewhere to put a dishwasher if you want to. So it's a very practical kitchen, and it's got enough space to utilize. I sound like an estate agent right now, but look, from an investment point of view, the exit is really important here to say that if someone wants to come in and make it their home, they've got enough space to utilize. And we've said that, you know, we're not spending 30 grand on the renovations. Therefore, the exit is keep things simple and keep things easy. I'm very much a case of my approach to every property tends to be low risk, high scale. This kind of falls into that sort of ballpark where you're doing very simple refurbs. You're just, you know, modernising the kitchen, bit of fresh paint here, making sure you've got enough space, you've got your gas supplies, you've got your electrical supplies, you've obviously got everything you need here. It's very simple. Boilers, really important topic in every property. Obviously, if you have gas supply in property and you've got central heating and therefore you have a combi boiler like this one, then it's really important to note how to approach it. So, for example, the way that I tend to approach it is if you're doing a rental, you want to make sure that you've got a good quality boiler in, because you don't want it break down on Christmas Day, your tenants being upset and not having a boiler, not having hot water on Christmas Day, but then also kind of just making sure that you're not having to call out Christmas Day as well from your point of view. So having a good long-term boiler, a good quality boiler, is really important. I always say that if you've got a boiler that's working, but it's dated and you're kind of a bit unsure, really consider replacing it. Like, we almost always replace the boilers. Obviously, being that it's a flip property, you don't really need to a point. But at the same time, it's really important to factor it in to consider it. So with this boiler, we're keeping it. There's no need to change it. It still works. Good brand. But the brand is really important because you want to make sure the actual spec, the standards, the quality of that boiler is going to last you a long time. And if a buyer's coming in, if it's got a horrible dated boiler, it doesn't really add the appeal. If you've got a tenant coming in and it breaks down for them, it's not good either. So really consider spending a bit more extra money on your boilers if you have them, and if you have a gas supply and it's relevant to the property, really something to consider. So the bathroom, probably the second most important area of any property. If you want to add value for this particular property, we haven't had to be honest with you, we haven't had to fully renovate the entire bathroom, because for the exit of the flip, we didn't need to. You know, we made sure it's practical, we made sure it was functioning, you've got a good quality toilet basin already. A lot of these things were bought already. So for the 12k renovation, we didn't have to replace everything. So obviously for 12k, you've only got a certain budget there. So yeah, for the work that was required, the bathroom wasn't really needed to be touched. It was good already. It already is. You can see it's already a functioning bathtub here. You've got the toilet, you've got the wash basin. So obviously for this particular project, it wasn't really that important to focus on. And I can feed into the windows as well. They're quite important to note on. But in terms of anyone watching this who's looking to do property themselves, bathrooms, if you want to maximize the possible value of a property, kitchens are one thing, bathrooms are another. You can spend a lot of money on a bathroom and really increase the value of it. So you can, 3 ways to add value to any property: add bedrooms, fully renovate kitchen and bathrooms, and just do renovations throughout. So obviously you can multiply that by do extensions and all that. But 3 very common ways: renovate the kitchen, renovate the bathroom, and add bedrooms. They are 3 very common ways of adding value to any property. Obviously there's a lot of things to consider there, but I hope that helps you guys. Bedroom number 1. So again, super simple. The exit we've gone for, the outcome we've gone for: dark thick carpets, plain walls. I'll feed onto the windows slightly soon in a second, because that's a really, really important point. Radiators are good as well, and I factored onto those as well. But both bedrooms are good large size. They're a good spacious area. So it just means that if someone comes in, they can have, parents in one room, kids in another. It's great for the exit that we're doing, so that's really cool. 2 things to note here: radiators, windows. So radiators, a really they're definitely something to consider on your refurbs. I would say they're not for the exit we need as a sale and for a buy to let. You're probably going for more value add in terms of replacing radiators, but they don't do too much. If your radiator is functioning and it has a TRV on it, so a thermostatic radiator valve on it already, which helps the EPC, which is the energy efficiency of a property, then factor that in. But all in all, if you don't need to change radiators and they look okay, great. With these ones, as a flip, we don't need them because the exit we're going for is a very bread and butter sale. We're not trying to make it a palace. If we were trying to replace everything, it would be different. So just factor in your radiators if they need to be done, but they don't have to be changed, but just consider them because we've done a lot of radiator changes and on other projects and they look really good. And it does add that wow factor, so it could be something to consider. Also, windows. These windows, I'm really happy with. And when I say these, I mean all of them. The windows at this property are really good condition, and I'm really happy about that because windows are very expensive. Typically, for context, in South Wales, in the valleys where we're operating, if you wanted to change all the windows of a property, you're probably talking between like 6 to 8 grand as a rough figure, which shows you the well, just how expensive it can be pretty much. So really factor your costs in. If you're looking to change windows, don't assume they're cheap because they are definitely, if you're going to replace windows, have the budget. Make sure that your numbers are right and all that kind of stuff. Heavily recommend doing so. Yeah, just a note on that. Windows are very expensive, so just make sure that you actually don't need to replace them if you don't. If you do, get your numbers right. One thing that I see forgotten about a lot is doors. Now, I don't just mean doors in general, I mean internal doors. So with this, we haven't had to change them, just to clarify. So it's a bit of a bad example, I'm not gonna lie. But just speaking generically about property investing now, internal doors can they add a bit of a wow factor. They don't increase value of property too much. They do a little bit, but people underestimate the cost of them on bulk. Because if you think about it, if you're doing a standard house, you probably got about 10 to 15 doors throughout. So if they're about, if you're replacing each one at £200 or more, the cost can go up significantly. So what I say is people kind of, they say, oh, there's a door here, yeah, we're going to do the carpets, we're going to do the walls, we're going to do the lights and all this kind of stuff. Make sure you factor in your doors internally as much as anything, because it's obvious the external doors, because when you walk in them, you can see if they're tight, and external doors are very expensive as well. But because you've got internal doors and there's more of them through the property, just make sure they're factored into your costs. Obviously, we do, varying on the exit. As a flip, we don't need to for the exit we're going for here, and I'll feed into the exit of the property later in the video and why we've gone for the standard we have. But in terms of just factoring in doors, highly recommend it. So yeah, bedroom 2, you'll see the same trend throughout. So really nice window, which I'm really happy with. The PVC double glazed. So from an energy efficiency point of view, an EPC point of view, they help a lot. LED lighting. Just bear in mind that every property we ever touch, we want to make sure the EPC rating, the energy efficiency of it, is a C rating, because we expect rentals, well, just properties in general, to require a C rating in the next 5 years. Just for rentals, that is, but we still carry that logic with us to every project out of habit. It's a really good habit to have, to make sure that whoever's buying it is protected if you're selling it along, and whoever's renting it, you're protected as the investor. So, yep, windows, double clean, PVC. Again, standard radiators didn't need to get changed. Dark, thick carpets. The reason we go for dark carpets in almost every single property is wear and tear, but also marks. Like if you've got bright carpets, you'll see the marks. If you've got dark carpets, you won't, So it's kind of one of those things where you don't want to walk in and see all the stuff you got on the carpets, and having a thick underlay in the carpet really helps as well, because from an investor's point of view, underlay is cheaper than the actual carpet on top. So on the carpet, you've got an underlay, which is quite thick and bouncy. Then you've got the carpet on top, which is what you actually walk on. The actual carpet itself is going to be quite dark, and the underlay, you want to be quite thick. So you're saving cost on the carpet, but then your underlay makes it feel a lot thicker and spongier than it is. So it feels nice to walk on, and it feels like a lot of money's been spent on, which in reality probably hasn't, even though carpet can be expensive. But it's just a cost saving way that investors and basically buy flooring, because carpet's going to be typically, from a rental point of view, a lot. They're going to cover the surface area of most properties, like 80%. So if you've got to replace 80% of the flooring in a property, you want to do it in a way that saves costs while also being practical, clean, and worth the money. Hope I explained that. For context, if you're replacing 80% of the flooring throughout a property with carpets, you want to do it in a way that is right for your exit. So it's clean, it's strong, and it's going to last a long time. It's durable, but then it's also not going to cost you a fortune to do. Where you buy carpets this thick and get an underlay this thick, you want to get carpets like this and have a thick underlay. Something that's really important as well is location. So make sure your location is accurate for the investment you're doing. This one is next to a town centre, which has the amenities, shops, school links, travel links, train stations, all the basic things that people who want to come here would want to buy to utilise. So make sure your location is factored into whatever project you're doing, because if you want to do a buy and hold, you've got to make sure it's right for tenants. If you're doing a flip, you've got to make sure that a family wants to come here and actually make it their home for the next 20 years. So your location is absolutely vital for the type of exit you're doing with a project investment, whether it's flips or buy and holds or whatever you're doing. Make sure your location fits the bill. So how has this even come about? So this client actually reached out to us through social media, probably over 18 months ago, probably near 2 years ago, give or take. I'm sure they'll correct me if I'm wrong in that time scale. But basically, reached out to us. Them and their partner are buying this property with cash. We sat down with them and said, look, what do you want to do? You know, what you have this pot of cash, what do you want to do? And they want to do flips. They want to keep recycling the funds, building their pot up. Great, amazing, happy days. They got a pot of around about 100K. They want to keep reinvesting it, happy days. So they've obviously bought the property. They've paid everything with cash. I highly recommend, if you're going to do flips, prioritize use cash buys instead of bridging, because if you're using finance to purchase these sort of projects, you've got a lot of time and financial pressure to sell it quickly on the back end. So just a word of warning for that, because we have a few clients who are using bridging and it does become a lot more stressful. So just on a bit of a word of warning for anyone watching this, looking to do flips and use bridging finance alongside it. It works, but just be careful. So luckily they're buying with this with cash, so amazing. So less pressure, but they can also just let us crack on with it. We've sourced it for them. We've done a renovation for them. We've had to have conveyancing with this listing purchase side of things. Now on the back end, we're going to get it on the market for them next week. So it's currently January, it's mid-January right now, 2025. Next week, we're going to put it on the market. Happy days. So yeah, that's pretty much how this has come about. They just want to keep building with us and keep growing, which is absolutely amazing. And the beauty of us existing is we're managing everything. Therefore, we can control the outcome to a point. And what I mean by that is not control the outcome in terms of the sale, but once the sale is agreed with a said buyer, we can then simultaneously find another project to literally use next as a flip, and we know what profit we're going to get. So they've got 80 to 100K invested into this one. We know on the back end they're going to make X amount of profit. So let's say they got over 100K now. Then we can find a project so we can keep scaling this. So every year the project gets bigger, profit margins get bigger as well naturally. We get better areas, better locations, and it really helps us help them. So let me feed on to why this is not always the best idea. So I absolutely love the client and you know, I love the project and everything, but a word of caution for these sort of projects, I tend to advise my clients to stay away from the smaller projects like this for flips. And the reason I say that is not to, like, from our business point of view, I should say the opposite, but I like to protect people to kind of make sure they're not getting themselves into things just seeing the money, because you've got to be logical as much as emotional about these. Or take emotion out of the way of it pretty much. But the point I'm getting to is, if you're doing these sort of flips where you're buying it for 70 grand, you're refurbing for 12 grand, and the end value is just over 100 grand, that's great. So your profit margin, I believe, expect to be about 25 grand, happy days. If you get the figures you want, amazing. And obviously that's what we can help with. But flips are market dependent. And it means that if you've got a profit margin of 25 grand and the market tomorrow changes, and with economics, with the economy, you can never tell what's going to happen. Liz Truss has taught us all that, right? So just to protect yourselves, anyone out there who doesn't want to work with us but kind of is going to go off into your own ventures, if you're doing flips, just be really careful with it with the smaller projects, because if you've got an expected 25k profit on the back end, you want to make sure that if you're being conservative, you want to be hyper conservative with it, basically to say worst case scenario is how much profit do I make, and if it's going to be £5,000, is the project worth your time? Because flips take longer than BRs. If you're doing a buy and hold project, it takes 6 months. So purchase, renovation, and refinance, you can predict that. With a flip, you're relying on the market. You're relying on literally a buyer to come here and buy the house. If your conservative profit on a flip is 5 to 10 grand, right? Compare it to a buy and hold. So if you're doing a buy and hold here of you're buying it, renovating it, and refinancing, that whole process for us takes 6 months between purchase, 3 months, renovation, 3 months, refinance. Great. With a flip, because you're relying on a buyer to come in, you want to make sure that from a conservative point of view, it's worth your time. Because if you're spending 3 months buying a property, 3 months renovating it, for example, and then you're waiting for 2 months for a buyer to come in, 3 months for them to buy it, the whole process takes a year. We tend to say 9 months ideally, 12 months conservatively on our flip projects. And if you're spending a whole year doing a flip, there's no point in doing it for £5,000. So the point I'm getting to with this whole segment of the video is I highly recommend, if you're looking to do flips, do bigger flips. We've got a couple of our clients now doing with about 200k plus all in. Now I understand not everyone can do that, but what I'm saying, the point I'm getting to is, if you can, great. If you can't, figure out what your options are. But just highly have a double think about if you want to do flips but you only got 80k there, consider your options. Because we've got a client at the moment, for example, who's doing a flip project in South Wales with 85k and it works really well. But he's had to use bridging finance to do a bigger project to make sure the profit margins are a lot bigger, because after his lending cost, his profit gets chopped in half. It's amazing, still profitable, and still worth the time, but he's had to take on a high risk project to make sure the numbers still stack. So it's just factoring that in. If you've got 200 grand sat there and you can do it all in cash, highly recommend doing it. Amazing, but make sure you're doing a bigger project to make sure that the time invested into a project is worth it. Because if you're breaking even, worst case scenario, it's still not a bad result because you're still not losing money. But just from respecting someone's time into the time and effort it takes to do a flip properly, not just renovate some house and try to sell it, do it properly, full end to end. It's a lot of energy. So this is just to protect anyone watching this. If you want to do a flip, just try to approach it the right way and try to do a bigger one if possible. Obviously, there's financial constraints there for a lot of people. But if you're confused with it, book a call with us and then I can brainstorm it with you, because you have options there that can help you. But just, this isn't like financial advice. I'm just trying to protect anyone out there, pretty much, from what I see every day. A lot of people want to do flips and they come up to us, they got like 80k there. I'm like, great, but your options X, Y, and Z, which aren't great. So I can blabber all day about the project and the refurb X, Y, and Z, but at the end of the day, what are the numbers? So this project has been bought for £70,000, refurb of 12 grand, which includes contingency and project management, which I'll feed on to shortly. The solicitor fees and stamp duty come to X amount. So your all-in costs of taxes, solicitor fees, purchase and refurb come to around about 90 grand, give or take. Probably just slightly less, probably 85 to 90 grand, to be honest with you. The sale on the back end we expect to be between 115 to 120, sorry. So 115 to 120 grand. And I'd say conservatively about 105. And then optimistically about 135. So you can see the safety bracket there, and then with how we met in the middle. We always have a realistic, worst, and optimistic case scenario on every flip. You have to protect yourself as an investor. We do a lot of flips, and having a market-dependent margin in that sort of mindset is really important. So it's something that we do with every project. Every time we present a flip to a client who wants to work with us, we say, look, here's the project. Here's optimistically what we expect. Here's what we actually expect it to be. But if the market were to turn bad tomorrow, like COVID 2.0, here's what we expect that to be. And then so long as those numbers still stack, it protects you as the investor. So hope that makes sense to anyone who's not looking to work with us but wants to invest themselves as well. Yeah, we always factor those costs in, because if your worst case scenario still stacks, that's a blimmin' good sign. If your worst case scenario is still okay within the time and effort put into it, and it's still doable and it's still worth your effort and time, definitely worth considering. And that's why the clients cracked on with this one. I can't wait to sell this one. I'm going to document it on our socials as well when it actually sells. And the beauty is, like I said before, we can tie this in with another project. So they literally want to sell this one, and then they actually text me the other day saying, have you got another project ready for us? Because when you know the sale price and it's close to actually selling, so in a couple months' time, you can actually say, okay, your capital after the sale is going to be X amount, because you can have that in your back pocket again. Well, let's tie another project onto the back end and keep rinse repeating this process. We've done one, let's hammer this. So it's the beauty of flipping. I know I've been a bit pessimistic about flipping on here, but I'm only pessimistic about it I'm only pessimistic about flipping with people who do smaller projects, because they go for the wrong reasons. Whereas bigger projects, which the client can feed into. So if they're using this project to build their capital up, they can keep building the capital, and then within 3 years of flipping, you've turned 80 to 100k into 150k plus. And then once you've got 150k plus, you can do some really big projects, or well, from our point of view, quite healthy projects that are making 30k plus per actual profit on the back end. And I've actually documented a few of those projects that we're doing right now with other clients on our YouTube channel, so be sure to check those out as well. But just in this project, those are the figures. All-in cost of around about 85 to 90k, 20k of margin to kind of get your profit in, and then that's what we set to sell for. So expected sale for about 115 to 120. So how can you get involved in projects just like this? So the 2 ways to work with us and the easy way to book in a call. So 2 ways to work with us is either if you want to build a portfolio in South Wales, book in a call, because we can do that for you. If you want to flip projects, book in a call, we can work with you on that. The call is just to discuss your circumstances, to see how can we help you best considering the position you're in. There's no pressure to do anything on the call. It's just me having a chat with yourself and saying, hey, do you want to get involved in projects like this? Okay, does your circumstances help? Do you have enough capital? Like all those certain variables. But booking a call, because then there's no right or wrong answer with this. If you want to build your capital up, do continuous flips. You can say, okay, I have a pot of 100k there. Keep flipping, and build it up that way. If you've got 100k, you want to build a portfolio, or even more, we can help with that as well. It's a case of sitting down, figuring out your circumstances, make a 5-year plan with it, and then say for the next 5 years, where you're trying to get to and build that way. The second way to work with us is the lower risk way of working with us. If you're sitting there saying, look, I've outlined how the potential risks of flips, the potential risks of this and that. Every investment has an element of risk to it. So therefore, I've spent the past 12 months figuring out from our service point of view, how can I help people invest who don't have the risk appetite of getting involved in these? And we now do fixed loans. So basically, long story short is, if you want to get involved and do a fixed loan with us, obviously this is a case of booking a call with us to find out if you're a good fit for it. But if you have a risk appetite that's quite low, which you have capital in the bank, and you want to do a fixed loan with us, where you literally just put money in, after X amount of time, you get your money back plus interest. It's the simplest way to work with us and the lowest risk way, because it means that we personally guarantee that loan and that interest gets paid back on time, and we're one-to-one with you. So it's the easiest way to work with us in terms of not having to hassle these projects, and it's just an alternative way to work with us. It's still it's an amazing way to work with us. We have I think on the back end of 2024, we had at least 4 clients jump onto that, because they can see the benefits of doing so, and it's designed for people who want security in their investment and still make profits. So yeah, anyone wants to get involved in that, be sure to let me know. And it means that we can work with people closely. Everything we do is one-to-one. Everything we do is bespoke. So whether you want a low risk loan to work with us, or whether you want to build a portfolio or keep flipping, book on a call, we can have a chat, and then whatever your preference is, we can deep dive into it. Both options are good. It just depends on which category you fall into more and what your risk appetite is. Because I would say, for context, flipping is high risk because you're relying on a buyer to come in. You've got buy and hold, which is portfolio building, which is what I do for myself, which is a case of obviously building a portfolio, cash flow and equity, all in South Wales. Every project we do is South Wales. That's option number 2, and that's probably medium risk. And then super low risk is there's very little, if any, risk associated with it, with the fixed loans. This means money in, money out, and pure profit. So booking a call with us, I'll put a link in the description, and then we go from there. Hope everyone has an amazing 2025.